Hello, and welcome back to Journey into the Strange. I'm Kaz.
And I'm Ralph, and it's been so long since we recorded, I forgot the name of our podcast.
It's called Journey into the Strange.
But it's still good because we've not actually released anything yet, so it's not like we've made people wait ages for a recording.
No, exactly. In your eyes, listeners, it should all be going swimmingly and nothing. There has been no long break and it's all fine. But we did have the best intentions when trying to come together to actually film this. We put a date in the calendar, we had it all set up, and then we both needed to go to London to see a mutual friend, and then we ended up going, oh, it's okay, we'll just we'll record the week afterwards, you know, and I mean, that's fine, it doesn't matter just by pushing it back by 1 week. And then we did that. Oh, but then it was your birthday party the weekend after that, on that Saturday. So it was like, it's okay, we'll push it back by another week and we can like kind of discuss it over drinks and stuff, and it'll be a better podcast for us.
Yeah, then my dad went insane. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That was so long ago.
I know. It's been a while.
Yeah.
And then, then your dad went insane. And then your mum broke her like entire leg and ankle.
Yep.
And then got COVID.
Yep.
So that wasn't great. That was a long time.
And then she got a secondary chest infection on top of COVID.
Oh my God.
So
poor mum.
Yeah, I know. She was not having fun in the hospital.
Oh, she's a trooper though. And then once you all got out of hospital and everything was fine, we were like, cool, Saturday it is. And then my husband got COVID. So then you couldn't go around to my house because we were like an infected household. And then I said, oh no, you can do last week because it just like clashed with your plans. And now we're finally here.
It's only taken 2 months.
God, it's so long. Yeah, that did take a while. But it's fine. We're here now.
I guess you could say this episode wasn't written in the stars.
I like what you did there.
Yeah. This episode's on astrology.
Just in case that wasn't obvious.
So, astrology. Let's do a quick overview of what we knew before our research.
So, for me, I knew about horoscopes, I knew about the zodiac, I knew that everyone had a sign, and everyone fell into those sort of categories. From beyond that, I didn't really know a lot. I knew my own star sign, and that's what I knew it as a star sign, rather than what I know it as now, which is the sun sign. And that was kind of all I knew about astrology, apart from that you can read your horoscope in a paper, and then that certain signs were compatible and certain signs were not compatible. And that's kind of all I knew about it. I didn't know, I basically just thought it was bullshit. I really didn't know enough about it to even consider it not to be. But obviously, since doing a lot of research, I have discovered that there's a lot more to it than just that one sign. What about you? What did you feel that astrology was before you started researching it?
I knew that if you went on Tinder, there'd be a load of people that I didn't like the look of who said, I'm into astrology. And that would be the only thing on their profile. And I'd say, well, that's cool, I guess. But do you also like travelling? I don't know. Put something else there. And then I knew I was an Aquarius, which I was like, that's cool because I like water. I'm sure those two things are related. And that was about it.
It is difficult because, I feel like that's the surface level that everyone knows about.
Yeah.
And even if you don't know anything about astrology at all, everyone knows their sign, their zodiac sign. I don't know why that seems to be very common knowledge. And I suppose that sort of shows how, even though many people may not believe in it, that it is actually something that we all know about.
Yeah, I think this is the first time on the podcast we're actually going to cover something that's common knowledge. Like chaos magic, no one who isn't a big weirdo like me would really be in. You know what I mean? People know magic exists, or the idea of it, but not something like a subsection of it, and real practical magic that puts forward. And tarot cards, and everyone's like, oh, I did an episode on tarot cards. People are like, I don't know what they are.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I thought everyone would know what tarot cards are.
I think you forget how nerdy we are.
Yeah, that's true.
And the fact that weird, obscure stuff doesn't pop up in Love Island. Well, maybe it does. I don't know. I've never watched it. Maybe
No,
it's this actually like really deep, esoteric Twin Peaks style show about people like falling in love and then having like demons chase them and weird trees like searching for them.
My God, you're really selling Love Island.
Why it's so popular? I don't know.
It's not like that. I'm very disappointed. I'm going to read out my sources. So the sources that I'm going to be reading from today are The Only Astrology Book You'll Ever Need by Joanne Martin Woolfolk. Also a very good blog / lessons in the form of a blog called thetarotlady.com, and it's called Star School, and that was very helpful, I think. Very useful to understand astrology at a deeper level. Also a YouTube video by Quartz. Astrology isn't science, but your horoscope is more real than you think. AstroKit, which is a website that gives you natal charts and birth charts. Everything you need to know about the aspects of astrology. And then an article by Kripa Krishnan, Here's Why More Women Follow Astrology. Psychologists say it's the patriarchy.
Oh, of course they do.
Hey, we'll get into it.
I read one of the books that you said, and one, the little book on astrology.
Oh, very nice.
Whose name of the author I forget, but I will edit in a bit.
Is it a little book?
I don't know, I got it on Kindle.
Ah, fair enough.
So
You have no
all
idea.
books are the same.
No idea of the physical size of the book. But yes, so I guess we should get into what our sun signs are. It would be interesting to see if like anyone could tell what we are from what they already know about us.
Yes, it's weird because I think when you put out like what you are and then if someone knows, you're like, yeah, I see that in you, like loads. And then it's like, yeah, well, like if I said that I'm angry and gregarious, then someone could be, I don't know. I feel like sometimes it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that the moment you say like the traits of them, people can be like, yeah.
Right, yeah, so like everyone kind of says, oh yeah, no, I see that.
Yeah.
But that has happened to me a lot in this journey, and I don't know whether it's because I do actually agree with it or if because it has actual weight to it. So I am a Taurus sun sign. And what are you?
I don't remember exactly.
You're Aquarius.
Yeah.
I know more about you than you do.
Yeah, because where does it stop again? Because I know Aquarius is like January, is it December?
Oh Lord, now you ask me facts, I don't know.
Yeah. So I think it's like March.
Sounds correct.
Yeah, I think
do you want me to
right.
look it up?
No, I think I think we're on board.
So you're Aquarius.
Yeah. And you're Taurus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I knew you were. Like I knew from the only because I remember what the actual months are, not because you are. So like what are some aspects of Taurus?
So there's stubbornness, reliability, what's this? Like nod off the head like yeah, maybe. You're not saying I'm reliable? How dare you? How dare you?
A nod of the head can mean many things.
It wasn't a nod, it was like a kind of
that was to the stubbornness one.
Okay. Well, yeah, stubbornness, reliability, headstrongness, a sort of more concerned with physical objects and sort of not display of wealth, but like a gravitation towards the finer things in life, which I do and disagree with. No, agree and disagree with. That's not.
I kind of disagree with all of that in relationship to you, apart from the reliability thing.
Ah, interesting. See, that's the thing. I hear those things, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, I could be stubborn, and oh yeah, no, I feel like I'm reliable. I feel like I'm a reliable type of person. I mean, everyone wants to be reliable, right? Like, why wouldn't you say like, oh no, I'm totally unreliable? Unless you like know that you're unreliable for whatever reason.
I know that about myself.
You know, I say you're very reliable.
Yeah, but that's because I like you.
Oh, I
so I
see.
like make an effort to be reliable. And also we have just delayed the podcast for about 2 months.
I know, that's true. But that was All external factors came into that.
But when you say someone is reliable, then they make sure that they factor in external factors and therefore they don't.
No, I mean, yes and no, but not to the point where it's like, oh yeah, so my mum's broken every bone in her body. Yeah, cool, let's do a podcast. Or like, my husband's got COVID, but I want you to come over anyway and record. Like, that's not. No.
I guess they could have, because it's legal now.
It is legal, but technically it wasn't at the time, actually.
Ah, cool.
Huh.
Yeah. So I can't say that I think you're someone who's more into like physical items than you are spiritual, considering you're doing a podcast on the spiritual.
That's true. I just think it's more than spiritual things. I just think it's like more like, oh, I want to have like possessions. Like possessions are important to me, which they aren't really.
I can't think of any time where you've been like, man, I've just got to get this
Gucci bag.
Yeah.
No, I don't like. I don't. Yeah.
I kind of think like possessions, I'd say, are more important to me because I like really value my comic book collection. I like to collect things. I like to have like lots of books. Like if I read a Kindle book, then for whatever reason I'm like, I have to buy this in physical because I want it.
If anything, I'm the opposite. I recently was able to get a bunch of Kindle books, so I threw out a load of my physical books. So maybe that one isn't me. Do you know anything about Aquarius and what you kind of resonate with Aquarius?
I do. Don't remember it off by heart. I really should have done more research. I really should have looked this back up.
Well, can I stop you there?
Yes.
Because I have something for you that might be very helpful.
Awesome.
I have to prelude it though because it is a part of a birthday present. Because it was your birthday, as we mentioned a while ago.
But you got me my birthday present.
I did, but I had another present I had to present to you on the podcast because I got your natal chart done.
Holy shit.
By a person on Etsy and then printed it, and I have it in this folder all for you. It's 42 pages worth of the report.
That's incredible. So the podcast is now going to become me reading this out loud.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
I got mine done as well. I gotta say, I haven't really read a lot into it. But it is nice because it gives you a roundup of each of the profiles of planets, of your star sign that falls within those planets, and also the houses. And
God, when you haven't looked at this stuff for about a month, you realise how much
it's very deep. There's so much of it. There's so much in astrology that it really makes you go like, wow. That's I think even though we had such a long time to research it, I feel like I've barely scratched the surface of it because there's so much stuff to research. Like each house has a particular meaning and a particular facet of a particular part of your life, and each planet that lives within that house means different things as well. So it's very deep.
See, this is why everybody is a nerd deep down. Because you see all these kind of cool looking people, like women on Tinder who are like, oh yeah, I'm into astrology. And then you're like, this is nerdy as shit, really. And then you get even you meet people people you think are meatheads into football, and then you're like, ugh, they're dumb. But then when you start talking to them about football, they're like, well, this guy on this position needs to be over here to the left and then slightly counter-clockwise so he can get the ball. And it's everything just has an absurd amount of detail.
That's very true. I think if you really like a hobby and really like have a passion and an interest, you can get so deep into it that it becomes unfathomable for anyone outside of that to understand.
And we all do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Most of us have one thing. So here we go. Aquarians, Aquarii tend to be friendly, original, intuitive, broad-minded. I guess this is me, apart from the friendly thing.
You're friendly.
Yeah, I guess. I don't like talking to people. Friendly, original, intuitive, broad-minded, non-conforming, different, independent, freedom-loving, scientific. That's not me. Unusual and helpful.
Yeah, you're definitely unusual and helpful.
Yeah. I'd say I'm fairly original. I'm definitely broad-minded.
Yes.
I kind of think I'm intuitive. Not really independent, as I live with my mum.
No, you're independent thinker.
And I do like freedom.
Do you like freedom? So, I think the next part, although you may have gone a bit too far, is your ascendant. So if we go to the ascendant page, which is 8 for me.
Yeah.
There you go. So you're a Libra ascendant. So basically, so your sun sign is more about who you are as a person and who you are personally and what your real personality is like. However, your ascendant is generally how you show yourself to the world, like what your image is and how you want to be seen by others. And I feel like I can't remember which source it was from that book, from the Woolfolk book, and she said that it's more like an entrance to the house that you have to pass through in order to see the real house inside.
Yeah.
So I'm a Leo ascendant. So that means that it says here that I am generous, proud, emotional, romantic, extroverted, that's not true, vain and egotistical, yeah, can see it, courageous, sentimental, self-confident, showy, and want to shine and be successful wherever I go.
You do have blonde hair. So
yeah, totally sure.
Yeah, that's shiny.
But I kind of, I know, this is one interpretation of Leo that I've seen. Another that I've seen is like compassionate, very big hearts, very generous. And I do feel like I more fall into that than Taurus. But then by the same token, the ascendant and the sun sign very much go hand in hand, as in they are a blend of each other, and you will be a sort of blend of the two, and that will be your personality.
Yeah.
So you won't ever be sort of like, oh, I'm really similar to that other person, because the stars are very unique in each birth chart.
I do think with something like this, it's quite easy to dismiss it as all hokum if, like, you're not the same as one of the words. Like, it's like, well, I'm not this thing, so this is all bullshit. I'm never going to look at it again.
Yeah.
Even though, you know, it's like all things. You can't just dismiss something out of hand just because it's not, like, entirely accurate. Always.
Yeah.
It's like the whole chaos magic thing where it's like, well, just because, like, this one thing didn't work this time, you can't be like, this whole thing doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. And the whole thing with chaos magic is you just keep trying and trying again in different like ways and different facets of doing that.
So a Libra ascendant, people with Libra tend to be charming, refined, attractive and dope, in some manner gracious, appealing, indecisive, cooperative, sociable, creative, artistic, perhaps musically inclined, harmonious, and wanting to please and not make waves. I guess a lot of that does apply to me.
Yeah, I see that a lot of it. Some of it not at the start, but definitely towards the end of that list, that definitely sounds like you to me.
You seek the approval and support of others. You may need company of others, God no. and hate to be by yourself, God no. But it does say may, so.
May, yeah, that's the thing. There's always like a pinch of salt with these things, which is kind of, again, I guess why I have a bit of a problem with astrology as a whole, because I often see one fact countered by the opposite fact. And I guess that, in my opinion, makes me feel like, oh, well, if I didn't say, like, oh, yeah, she hates people, but that's because she really loves people. And I'd be like, oh, yeah, that's totally me. I do love people. It's like, you know, or, oh, no, that's totally me. I do hate people. And I think that's probably my biggest problem with it.
This whole thing, this is not too much to do with astrology, but I do think it's interesting. But I realise how much our sense of ourselves are so malleable by how other people see us. Because I think I have a very strong sense of who I am. But then one time, two people, including you, were like, you're the most stubborn person I've ever met. And I was like, yeah, I guess I am stubborn. And then I was like thinking about it, I was like, I don't think I'm stubborn at all. And I am going to clamp down on my idea of not being stubborn and never change it.
And that's consequently being stubborn.
But I still don't think I'm stubborn. I'm very easy. I just do whatever anyone really wants.
I don't think you're stubborn in like what people say. Oh, Ralph, do you want to do this? And you're like, no, I want to do this other thing.
Yeah,
but
I go to clubs or like loud bars all the time with you guys, and I fucking hate them. But I'm like, you know, we'll do whatever.
I don't go to loud clubs. What are you talking about?
I was just thinking about Las Iguanas.
Las Iguanas is not a club.
Yeah, it is. It's got music.
It's a Mexican restaurant that serves cocktails.
Yeah, and there's a club of humans who like that.
Chocolate. No, oh my god, I'm gonna like say that next time. That Las Iguanas is a club. I want to do that actually next time someone says, do you want to go to a club? I'm like, yeah, I know a place. Take it to Las Iguanas.
Like 5 o'clock for dinner.
Hello, we like the 2-for-1 deal. I can't remember what I was saying. Oh no, I think you can be very stubborn when it comes to like your own beliefs, which I think is a good thing, because you believe in something, and if someone says, oh no, like, I think that's rubbish, you're going to be like, oh cool, well, you think that's rubbish, but I still believe in it. I think that's good, because that's not necessarily saying you're stubborn in a bad way. That's stubborn in saying, like, I'm not going to give over on the things I believe in.
That's true. It's not how you said it, though, back in the time.
Well, I was probably drunk at the time.
But yeah. But I do think there's a point to that I was getting at. Like, our sense of who we are is so incredibly malleable. If someone says to us that we are something, it's quite easy just to, like, adopt that. Because really, like, how we put ourselves out into the world, it's really difficult for us to say who we are, which is why, like, it's not that easy for me to be like, I agree with that Libra chart or Aquarius chart, or I don't. Because who I am, it's not for me to say, it's more for, like, the people who know me to say. Because what I think I'm putting out might be totally different.
That's interesting. But then by the same token, you feel like you should know, because, like, just up by the point there, you saying, I don't think I'm stubborn, but then you then gave over to people saying, oh yeah, no, you are stubborn.
So it raises the question of, do we know ourselves better than other... Is who we are how we see ourselves? Or is it how the world sees us?
So I thought we'd talk about birth charts now, mainly because they kind of inform everything going forward. And I didn't really understand a birth chart at first, because it just kind of looks like a bunch of circles and random lines. But really, there's this circle. It's divided into 12 parts. Each outer part refers to a zodiac, and that is then segmented again into houses. The houses refer to different parts of your life, such as your creativity, your marriage and partnerships, your career. And then within this diagram, this template, the planets fall, and then these planets, like the sun, we talked about sun signs already, the moon, and all of the other celestial bodies fall into different parts of this segregated circle. And then each part of that circle refers to one of the zodiac signs. So you can see, I didn't know this at first, and this is what kind of took me a long time to understand, was the fact that we can have so many, you can have, say, Mercury in the 10th house, and also Mercury in Taurus. And I thought that, what does this mean? Like, I don't understand what any of this means, but it's very hard to describe it over a podcast. But if you get up a picture of a birth chart, or a picture of a birth chart with the houses in, you will be able to understand where your planets fall within this grid, almost this circular grid.
One day when we start to do live shows, we'll get like a big PowerPoint presentation up, and you can have like one of those pointers and just be like, boom.
Oh my god.
Boom.
Oh yes. With the laser pointer, with the clicky thing. Yeah, I'm all over that. So we've talked about the sun and where the sun falls in this circle and in the birth chart. So mine, as a sun sign, falls into Taurus, and Ralph's falls into Aquarius. Your moon sign is where the moon falls into place within that birth chart. So your moon is generally talking about your instinctual side and your subconscious side. So this can mean that people find it's like your inner core, that you don't actually want to show it to people, that it's quite hidden, because it's the way that you react to things immediately. It's you're sort of like, you can feel jealousy and pride and hurt from it. It's your sort of like first base instinct reaction.
And I would go on to say, it's not even that you don't want to show it to other people. It might even be hidden from you a little bit, because it's a subconscious. This is something that I react like, but that I'm not always aware of, while the other ones is like a little bit more, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like this one's very...
Like you may not even know it yourself.
Yeah, this one's very instinctual.
So let's look at the moon for me. So my moon is in Sagittarius, You are independent, outspoken, open, generous, enthusiastic, idealistic, inspired, and optimistic. These qualities attract many friends and acquaintances. I mean, I do think I am inspired and optimistic, but I wouldn't necessarily say I have a lot of friends and acquaintances. Mainly because I dislike people.
I don't know, you know people.
I do know people, yeah, that's true. I mean, you can't really get by in this world without knowing people, but I don't know. I don't feel like I'm a massive people person.
No.
But this moon seems to say that I am. Maybe I am a people person. Maybe I'm just not acknowledging that about my true self.
Yeah, you always say you're not like the most social, but you have more stuff going on than most people I know.
I don't know. Well, maybe.
And most people I know just sit around and read, so I don't really know. Like,
what does your moon say?
my moon is in Leo. You are warm, generous. Generous isn't like all of these.
You're a very generous person.
Yeah, but I mean, like, your moon's in somewhere, and I swear I said you were generous.
Yeah, my moon's
There has to be one person who's like one of the moons where it's like, this person's a fucking stingy dickhead. And loving in your affections and bring out great devotion and loyalty in your loved ones. You want to be worshipped and adored like a king or a queen. I mean, that would be nice. I do deserve it. I do want to run a cult one day.
Well, there you go. You want it. Oh, yeah, you did say about your cult that you're going to run one day.
Yeah. Do you know, in my yearbook, I was the person most likely to be a cult leader.
Ah.
I don't know why that was a choice in the yearbook.
I don't know either. But also the fact that you kind of keep backing it up is like another worrying factor.
I do want to run a cult, but like a nice one.
Yes, a nice one.
Yeah, a non-profit cult. You want and need a partner you can be proud of, and your own pride is very important to you. Yeah.
Yeah, I say you are proud. You are proud. You are a proud person.
Yeah. I guess.
So I think we mentioned briefly about where the planets fall into on your birth chart. So where each planet falls has a particular influence on that section of your life. So, for example, Mercury refers to your mental outlook and Venus reflects on the way in which you love. The placement of these planets within each zodiac determines how you will express these different facets of your personality. So if Mercury is in Gemini, you'll tend to be extremely verbal and quick-witted. And if your Mercury is in Capricorn, you're very detailed when it comes to plans, that sort of thing. So that's why, you know, we've read the moon in Sagittarius and the moon in Leo, and that has something to do with both of these qualities, the moon itself, and then also the zodiac that it falls into. So, yeah, you get qualities of, I feel, a lot of the different zodiac signs within a birth chart.
Yes, that makes sense. I feel like all of this is just a way of expanding it to a point where anyone can be anything.
Well, yes, I have often come to this conclusion. Yeah, because
it's also like there's no in real life. There's no like who you are in a relationship very much overlaps with a lot of bits of you, and who you are in certain other aspects of you. Like they all overlap. So I feel like you could be like, well, you're not like this in this area because I am in this relationship, and this relationships are relationships with everyone, not just your partner. And it's like, well, yeah, but none of this tells you anything about someone. It just tells you that everyone's apparently generous.
Everyone's generous. It says it everywhere.
And
maybe just you and me are very generous.
Science backs up, if you were, if it's not science, the astrology science, it's like, well, everyone's everything, so I'm always right.
It's interesting you should say that because I actually got down a couple of quotes from Woolfolk, and this is just sort of excerpt from her book, and I've titled it "Everyone is Unique."
Yes.
So here goes the quote. Because each entity in our solar system moves at different speeds and rates, and in a separate path or orbit, the combinations of the placement of planets are almost endless. At the moment of your birth, the sun, the moon, and the planets were in a particular arrangement in the heavens. This exact arrangement will not be repeated for 4,320,000 years. This means another person with your exact horoscope will not walk around on this earth for another 4,320,000 years. Even then, of course, that person will never be exactly the same because based on entirely different genetic and environmental factors. The unique pattern of the sun, moon, and planets in your horoscope is most likely unduplicated by anyone else. Your sun sign might be Taurus or Scorpio, but you may be different as the night and day from another Taurus or a Scorpio. Just as your fingerprints are like no one else's, your birth chart is like no one else's, and if you wish to gain further insight into the knowledge astrology can provide you, you must know whether various planets are placed in yours or anyone else's birth chart.
Now, why the fuck would anyone be into astrology? Because it's like, oh, because you're this Taurus, so I can tell this about... I'm going back to the Tinder thing, but this is why I wanted to do an episode on astrology anyway, because you see it everywhere. It's like, oh, well, you know, we won't get along if you're... I don't know, what's the one with the bull?
Me, Taurus.
Yeah. Yeah, anyway. Scorpio, that's the one I was thinking of. That's the one everyone's like, oh, I won't get along with them on Tinder.
Oh, I see.
But if, like, you're meant to, like, be into this so you can tell certain things about certain people by when they were born, so if they were born on a Scorpio, that's fine. And then you can be like, well, I can tell this about them, and this is a way that helps me, like, segmenting the... No, that sounds racist.
No, it's segmenting the different varieties of people that you meet.
Yeah, exactly.
Different groups and boxes.
Yeah. Then that's why I'm into this. But if everyone has a unique birth chart that you have to understand the planetary alignment for every little aspect of that birth chart to get any idea of who they are, why on earth would anyone bother with any of it? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. It's like, it does.
No, I totally get where you're coming from, because I often... It actually probably took me until today, when I was doing my final bits of wrap-up research, that I kind of came to this conclusion as well. Because at the beginning of it, it's very certain, if you just start with your sun sign, there's like 12 different personalities basically, and you fall into one of the 12. But then you introduce something like the moon, and you're like, oh, okay, well, it's not just the 12 personality types, there's like a whole nother thing. So maybe there's like 24 now.
Yeah.
And then you get ascending into the mix, and you're like, well, now there's a whole nother bunch of them. And then thus forth with all the different planets, basically making every person that you talk to on this planet unique. Which we already knew.
Yes, I was going to say, it's almost as if we're all individual and have different experiences that shape us in deep and unfathomable ways, and it's really hard to generalise anyone into anything because people will act surprising and go outside the little chart way more often than not. So to like try and equate for this, you have to make up bullshit like 10 houses and everything and the fucking stars and different alignments to like essentially explain what we know is that people are inherently, there's no map to get to know people, there's no great diagram that we all fall into, and there's no great charts that allow us to understand every single human just on the face of it. People are complicated and annoying and tiring, and to vaguely get to know someone you have to spend 10 years getting to know them, and even then they'll do something that surprises you like almost every day.
Well, that was a lot of words, but that all very good. I agree. I totally agree.
And this is my problem with astrology.
This is one of my problems with it. The other one is basically people being able to blame a shitty personality trait on the stars, or instead of being like, I'm going, well, that's actually not true. There's two different ways I see of people attacking this. And it's one way, which is like, oh, I'm a Scorpio, I'm like this. Or you can be like, I'm a Scorpio, I'm like this, and I'm trying to change his personality about me. Like, this is a personality type, and this is what I'm an affinity to, and this is why I am like this, but I am trying to actively change that. This is a warning sign that I am getting from this, and this is making me be a more wholesome person because I am trying to actively change this negative personality trait about me. However, I have a feeling that more often than not, people are like, well, I'm just like that because I'm a Scorpio.
Yeah.
It's written in the stars. There's no way of me changing this, so this is just how I am. Accept it and move on. And I feel like obviously there's two very different mindsets in that, and about sort of attacking this very same issue. I don't necessarily think, even if people weren't to believe star signs, I still think they can be very helpful, because I still think that they do highlight negative personality traits, and you can start thinking about your relationship with other people and your relationship with yourself with different lenses. And if you do that, you're always going to be working on yourself, and you're always going to be recognizing another part of your personality that you might think that isn't a great part of your personality, and you want to work on it or make it better. But yes, there's very different ways of looking at the problem, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think if you look at it as this is what I'm predisposed to, then I can work on that, and it can allow me to highlight that. But I think if it's like, this is destiny, I never have to feel guilty about the things that I do that are shitty, because that's just a part of my personality, then that's not on. Yeah. And I don't think, I think it can be very easy to use astrology as an excuse to just be a bad person.
Yeah.
Or not a bad person, just indulge in the bits of your indulge in bits of your personality that hurt other people and not work on them.
That's it. And then just be like, well, I can't help it. It's because I'm a Gemini or whatever, and then leave it without actually doing any work on that part of your personality.
Really, it should be, I think all of this stuff that we've come along, the last 3 episodes, at its best, I've come to the conclusion that whether it's real or not, and your mileage may vary on certain things, because I still kind of think chaos magic is real, and I still kind of think tarot cards have something in them. And I'm not sitting here to judge anyone's mileage, but I think at best for all of them, you can say, let's just leave out faith and assume this isn't real. I don't believe in this. I really do think you can still take something away from each of them. They're even if this isn't spiritual or magical or whatever, or there's some tools in here that I think is worth researching so I can get to know them. And those tools, and they can help me in my life.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that's the same with astrology.
Yeah, there's always something positive that you can take from these things. And I think that is one of the main reasons why we're doing this podcast, right? Yeah. I mean, it's because we want to learn about things and explore about things. And if we just took it as oh, this is bullshit, oh, none of this is real, then we wouldn't be doing justice to this podcast, because we don't have an open mind, and we're not exploring all the possibilities.
Wait till we do a flat Earth episode and have to have an open mind about that.
Ooh. That's going to be a fun one. Yeah. So I think that's kind of all I have on this particular astrology wrap up. I'd love to do a mini-sode where we dive into each of our charts.
Yeah,
this is it's a beastly document. It's 42 pages, and we both have one. So I was thinking we could read out each page and see how we differ.
Sounds good.
Obviously to the point where it's not a 90-minute episode where we're doing every bloody single thing in this thing. But yeah, I feel like I have I've enjoyed my little foray into astrology, but I am quite looking forward to moving on to something else next.
Yeah, I can understand that. 3 months is a long time to be looking into anything.
It's a very long time, I think, anyway.
Too long.
Yeah.
But, hopefully my mum won't break her leg again.
That's true.
Just
don't break the other one.
Yeah, just wrap it. Well, she sprained the other one when she broke the first one.
Oh my god.
I had to have that reset anyway.
Oh, your poor mum.
Yeah.
So, what do you think of astrology? I mean, I know you've already put your opinion across quite brilliantly, but what do you feel that if there's anything in it, and do you feel like you're going to be continuing to look into it? I think I can guess the answer.
I'm not going to sit here and say there's nothing into it. I think things my parents, both of them, used to be obsessed with this thing. I forget what it's called, but it was a very primitive version of the Myers-Briggs test. It wasn't I don't think they had any relation to each other, but when you look into it, it seemed very similar to this, to the point where it helped them massively in their interaction with each other. I mean, they still got divorced and had a terrible relationship, but while they were both into it, it kind of helped them. And for me, I never oh god, it was almost like a little cult. I had to go to loads of workshops on it and about your personality and your personality traits.
What is this?
I can't remember the name of it. It's really annoying.
Find out about it so we can do an episode.
I think it's fallen so far into obscurity. It wouldn't be. Maybe if that's fun for a mini episode.
Do it. I want to know.
But yeah, anyway, so they were obsessed with this, and there were so many workshops, and I had to go to this week-long retreat. Oh, and I lost my Beast Wars toy there.
Are you sure you weren't in the cult? It sounds like a cult.
No, I don't think they gave the. Anyway, but yeah, it was a very much primitive version of a Myers-Briggs test. Of like you do answer these questions and you do all this work, and then it would say certain things about your personality, and it would be like, here's a little map for who you are, and here's how you're more likely to react to certain things. And they both found out a lot about themselves, and I have to say, for the most part, it was accurate, and it was kind of accurate for me too, though. Although I was only 9, so like still developing. But my problem with it was like two things. And this will get back to astrology. It was since they did it, they were just like, they judged everyone in this very narrow criteria of if the person's this number, was a number set from 1 to 9, then they're going to act like this always. And I was like, that doesn't work, because I don't think people are that predictable. I think people are just, on a bad day, someone's going to act way outside of character, or if they're going through like a depression, or like people are way too changeable and malleable, and no one's really got that strict walls up where they all like act like this. And the other problem I had with it was, ever since like my mum got her number, and she still does this today, this day, it's like, well, this is my personality and this is who I am, and I am going to act like this because I'm going to act like this. And I think it like very much promotes not changing. And so, but I do think it helped them, because it allowed them to make sense of other people in a way they never really managed before. So I'm not going to say, like, if astrology helps you look at these certain aspects and see them in other people, and that helps you interact with people, I don't think there's anything that I'm going to be like, this is all bullshit and this can't help anyone. But personally, for me, I don't... It's not for me. It's not a way I can look at the world, and it's not something that I would find helpful or really believe in.
Yeah, that's a really interesting anecdote. I want to know what that is. Please ask your mum what that was called, because I really want to know, and possibly do an episode on it. Sounds culty. I want to know. But yeah, no, I think exactly what you said harkens back to what I was saying before. Is that like you can see you can either use it to expand your view or narrow your view. And I feel that if you're doing it to narrow your view and saying this is the way I am and this is the way I always will be because of when I was born, then that's, obviously not a growth mindset, and you're very much sort of stuck believing and almost having an excuse for not working on yourself or for not doing the work.
Have you ever met those people who say, I'll tell you things straight up. Like, I'm a no bullshit person, and I'll tell you exactly what I think. And then they're just fucking dickheads. And they're like,
yes, I love that. I don't know anyone like that personally, because I probably wouldn't give them time of day. But watching TV shows, people say, "Oh, I'm very direct. I'm a very direct person," and it's like, no, you're just a bitch.
And they just use it as a way to say like every horrible thought they've ever had, and you're like, yeah, well, fuck you. Yeah. And it's not. And they're like, well, I told you I was direct. It's like, well, that's not a good thing. This isn't something you should be expecting. And they're always really angry and loud people.
Yeah, they are. It's because they just use that word as a way of masking that. I always see like someone saying that they're direct. It's like, I can be direct, but I'm a very like caring, compassionate person. I wouldn't say something to you that's going to offend you. And even though I wanted to be direct about it, I would take time to frame it in a certain way so that it wasn't rude, and
I'll say what I feel, but I'll say it with tact and acknowledging the other person has feelings.
Exactly. People who just say they're direct are just like,
I don't give a shit.
They don't give a shit, and they're lazy because they don't want to learn how to phrase things in order to soften the blow, or in order to be direct but in a kind way.
They frame it like they're doing you a favour, like, oh, you'll never get bullshit from me, and it's like, well, you won't get bullshit from me, I just won't hurt your feelings, and I kind of care about you as a human being.
Yeah.
And I kind of, I forget what my point was.
No, me neither, but this is a really good conversation.
But I feel like it's sort of the same. You see it, people be like, I'm a Scorpio and therefore I'm, angry. And like, back to the personality thing that my parents did. Like, there was a scale of 1 to 9 and my dad was a 1, and they got told, and he said that like ones are the most fair people, and they're the most, they make really good judges, but they can also be too passionate and get too angry, and it just comes from their strong morals. And like ever since my dad had that, he will just wander around being like, I'm fair, I'm the most fair person, I have a real strong sense of fairness. And it's like, the moment someone fucking thinks they're a fair person, then they become totally deluded and completely unfair. Like, it's not for you to say that you're a fair person, it's for other people to think. And it's the same about star signs. It's not for you to come back to a question I was asking myself earlier. I don't think it's for me to be able to say, oh, I have this as a star sign, so that means I'm a really generous and caring person. I'm not going to do anything to be generous and caring.
I just am that.
Yeah, because that's what the stars say.
Exactly. So I don't have to try and be caring and compassionate. I just am caring and compassionate, and none of my actions have to deem that worthy.
Exactly.
I just live and I am caring and compassionate.
And so,
doesn't work like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, that's great, but these things don't just because they're in the stars like that. You have to make a choice to act like that. And if you don't, then you're not those things.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, this has been a real cool little excerpt into astrology, but then also the psychology behind the astrology.
Yeah.
And like why people act the way that they do. I'm kind of interested in more this side of astrology, not inside astrology itself, but then like why people follow it and why people do what they do, and is it helpful or is it not helpful? You know, like all of these things are like far more interesting to me than, you know, where Pluto is located in your birth chart.
Oh, before we leave, I just wanted to say, did you know back in the like 1300s, maybe the 1400s, it's probably both, that the doctors at the time like did astrology rather than like science to like diagnose you with a disease?
I did hear about this.
So if like they were like, oh, you have a pain in your stomach, and I was like, oh, doctor, I have a pain in my stomach, they'd be like, well, you know, the Pluto is in the Leo section of the house at the moment, so
we need the drop off your arm.
Yeah, and they're like, well, I guess. I mean, my arm seems fine though. I do weightlifting every day. Oh.
Nope. Amputation is the only way.
Too bad we don't have anaesthetic or antibiotics for that infection. But the stars deem you to die.
Oh my lord. I gotta say, like, yeah, I do find that interesting as well, and how the history of things has, like, influenced star signs as we see them today. I don't think I'll necessarily be taking it forward. I'm glad I know more about it, though, because when people talk about it, I'll be able to know what they're talking about slightly.
Yeah, that's really one of the cool things about this. Someone I work with is actually like a really famous tarot person. They've been on like TV about it and stuff.
What? That's crazy.
They're really conservative though. Anyway.
Not necessarily a problem.
So when they brought it up, they were like kind of being like, oh, I bet you don't even know what tarot cards are. And I was like, I certainly do. And they didn't even look at the stupid thing that I looked into with the, I forget what it's called. Oh, God damn it. You know, the thing with the...
Oh, your parents' thing.
No, with tarot cards, the angel thing.
Sephiroth?
No.
No, what are they called?
It's like
Kabbalah.
Yeah, that's it.
Really got there in the end.
She didn't even look into that side of it. So I was like, in a way, I know more about the thing that you earn money from, but she does like a little side hustle like tarot cards.
That's pretty
than
cool.
you do. But not really, because I didn't understand any of that.
No, I mean, that was pretty deep. I don't think I'm going to be taking this forward and researching it. Mainly for what you said about, you know, it not necessarily helping everyone and it being sort of excuse to continue being a shitty person. But then also what I've read about how everyone is basically unique on it anyway. So it doesn't really, I mean, maybe it reveals a lot about a person if you know their birth chart, but it feels like if
How many people would you ever know the birth chart of?
You'd have to know their date of birth and where they were born, and then you'd have to, plug it into a...
And at what time they were born.
And what time, that's very true. And then, plug it into the internet, and then, spend hours researching, or pay someone to research for you, which is what I did today.
It's like you could just talk to them
and
get to know them and have the same amount of information.
I do think it's very interesting. I like that I understand it now. I like that when someone says, oh yeah, no, you're like that because your Pluto's in Leo. Like, I kind of understand what they will mean now when they say that, but I don't necessarily think... I think that's almost the thing that killed it for me, actually, was basically that you can't... Everyone is as unique as their birth chart, and there's not going to be another one of you for another 4 million years or however many years it was. And it kind of makes me feel like, well, what's the point of doing any of this then? Because if everyone's unique and everyone's different, to like a Leo is not the same as another Leo because they have like 24 other factors that you have to concern before you know what type of a Leo they are. How are you meant to know anything about that person based on their star sign?
Yeah, it's just... Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah, that's almost killed it for me in a weird way. Like, the more I've... Like, I didn't... It's almost... Maybe that's why it's so popular. Because when it's very simple, and there's just 12 personality types that you divide into, and that seems easy, and that seems like, oh yeah, you're this personality type. I see that in you. That's very easy to distinguish. And then when you suddenly get all these planets and houses and things involved, then it's almost like you can't know anything about anyone because all of it's influenced by everything else.
I agree with all of that, and I just remembered something I totally wanted to ask about an article you read about why isn't it as popular because of the patriarchy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I read that today, so it's not exactly like it's hugely researched, but I read an article purely because I wanted to know why women like star signs more than men, and I think that's a pretty, that's not me being sexist in any way. It's like it is pretty established that women are very much more into star signs than males.
You realise that about a lot of this, not so much chaos magic, because that's all about ranking. So
that was very male orientated.
Yeah, I can see why that was males into that. But tarot and astrology both fall, like, there's way, you're like, look for, like, what's a good tarot card for me? And you're like, well, these are all so girly.
Yeah, they're very female influenced, whereas I thought chaos magic was the opposite.
Yeah.
But yes, that article did go on to say that basically because women have less control of their lives because they don't necessarily have the control that men do in their lives, and this is quite sexist, one way or another, but it was the fact that because women are less in control of their lives, they try to grab hold of astrology because they find it more comforting that there is an element of control, that they can read into it in order to understand the ways of the world. But in a way, I do find that article kind of sexist in itself because in a way it's like, well, why should I feel the need to do that if I don't have control? Like, are you saying that I am so not in control of my life that I cannot possibly control anything else other than the time that I was born? That seems very like...
Yeah, is that way of being sexist without being... You're trying so hard not to be sexist, you loop around to being sexist. Is my point on the article.
Yes, no, I totally agree.
So I think that's it.
I think that is it. Yeah, I think we've explored it. So probably not to like the nth degree, but we've definitely gone there and we've established that it's not something that we're totally into. I am not as into it as I was with tarot.
No.
I bloody love tarot. I've got my little tarot book here right next to me.
Yeah, I definitely didn't fall in love with it. I have to say I found the research hard. I think
I found it hard because so many of the books are basically just tables of data.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're Taurus, you're this. If you're Pisces, you're this. And it's kind of like, but then it's like, okay, cool. And then it's like, if your moon sign is in this, then you're this. And like 12 times, every single page for like, and it's at the end of the day, it just kind of feels like a spreadsheet.
Yeah. And like, say what you will about chaos magic or tarot, but those books were so packed with information. Where the books I read, it felt kind of like, in a way, filler. Of like, here's loads of charts that you won't understand, and I'm sure there's some merit to them, but there's not that like much information. Like, I was really struggling to like find out what the symbology behind each of the star signs were. Like, what is Aquarius? I know it's like scales and stuff, but like, what myth does it come from? Is there like...
No, Aquarius is the jug.
Yeah, that's what I said.
No, you said well, I thought you said Libra is the...
No,
Okay, Libra is the scales.
Scales, jugs are the same thing.
Are they?
They both have water in.
What?
Yeah. Anyway,
Scales do you use?
my point, and I was like, this is so hard. Like, I've read 2 of these books, and I still don't really... And like, we met up with a friend of ours, and they were saying about one of them. I was like, that's the kind of thing I found really interesting.
I think that's more like... Yeah, like the classics behind it, like the stories and how these things came to be what they are. But then this actually spans a lot of different cultures throughout the ages. It started with the Babylonians, and then it also went into the ancient Egyptians, and then to Greek. So it spans a whole lot of different mythology and stories. So I don't even, maybe that's why it's so hard to find, is because it's actually influenced by so much that there is no origin story.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway, so I think that's about what I had to say about it.
Yeah, me too. What should we do next time?
So I want to do like a little episode because Kaz likes tarot cards. I was into tarot cards. I want to learn more about the... And then I thought, well, maybe we could do more about tarot cards because I know Aleister Crowley has his own set of tarot cards, and I'm interested in Aleister Crowley as a human being. So I was gonna, I thought we could do like a mini episode on him focusing on tarot, but a little bit about all around it anyway, because he's got like 2 fictional books that I'm gonna read. And just talk about Aleister Crowley, but mostly his tarot and how it differs from normal tarot and what it's more related to and why he felt the need to come up with his own.
Awesome. I feel I'm all for that.
And then like maybe I think that sounds fun.
Nice. So that's our next episode.
We'll record it in less time than 3 months.
Yeah. Well, they won't know. They won't know the difference.
No, exactly.
Although they might when we start releasing them, so we really do need to get better at that.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, cheers, everyone.
Thank you very much for listening. This has been Journey into the Strange. We'll see you next time.